Hey guys, wanted to go ahead and do another video. Again, this is totally different from what I usually have on this channel, as it's not directly related to Brave New World, but I wanted to provide a video to help out anybody who has a Blue Yeti so that it can be focused on voiceover acting. Because in my opinion, I think a lot of the tips that are available for the Blue Yeti, they are focused on streaming and Twitch and focused on YouTube presentations, but very little online is actually teaching someone who has a Blue Yeti to use it for voiceover. Let's say you want to use it for any sort of video and you want to have like actual voiceover in your audio. There's actually not much information out there on YouTube to teach you that. So I'm going to go over some things regarding how to use the Blue Yeti. A lot of this is very different from a lot of the tips that are available, because as I mentioned, a lot of the tips that are currently available on YouTube are focused on streaming. They are focused on Twitch. They are focused on YouTube presentations where you're bringing something to a table and showing it in front of a camera and everything looks pretty. In actuality, when you want to have good voiceover, it's going to be messy. You're going to have like pillows and blankets, and as I mentioned, a lot of thick, dense, soft material all over your microphone, and that's what it takes to get good audio, and it may not be presentable for a YouTube presentation or a YouTube streaming video. So that being said, let's get on with the video, and I'm going to teach you, in my opinion, different ways to get the most out of your Blue Yeti for voiceover, not for streaming. Okay, let's go.
Baby, you know I'm guilty. Cops, judge, and jury, they all agree. If love's the crime, I'm doing time, and I don't look like I'll ever get free. Yeah, baby, you know I'm guilty. Baby, you know I'm guilty. While you're my Clyde, I'll be your Bonnie. I could pretend I'll be good again, but while loving you's the charge I'll never be. 'Cause baby, you know I'm guilty.
Alright, so what's really important is that you need to have a lot of thick, dense, soft material around your microphone. So typically a lot of the acoustic foam that you find on Amazon, a lot of that 1-inch acoustic foam, it's not enough. You need to get something else. So whether it's moving blankets, designer pillows, dog pillows, stacks of clothing in a walk-in closet, 4-inch acoustic panels, these are a lot better. And these are also a lot better than some of the little porta boxes. Because those don't quite, or I guess they're porta boots, because they're just, those don't give you a lot of space around the microphone. A third method to use is a do-it-yourself PVC booth. So basically what you do is you get moving blankets. You can get a 12-pack for about 62 bucks, get Shermax, and basically you go to Home Depot and you set up a PVC booth setup, and it gives you excellent sound. What's really important and why it gives you really great sound is because it's a lot of thick, dense, soft material, but there's no hard walls that the sound is bouncing off of, which gives you really, really good sound. As mentioned, walk-in closets are fantastic. They work a lot better than non-walk-in closets because it gives you a lot of space around the mic. It's a lot of soft, thick, dense material around the mic. There's no hard walls that are too close to the mic. As I mentioned before, you want to make sure that your microphone is not near any hard wall, about at least a forearm to an arm away. And the entire area is filled with really, really good acoustics for sound. So walk-in closets are fantastic. I mentioned this briefly already, but don't use the 1-inch acoustic foam that you're getting from Amazon. In fact, I would not recommend acoustic foam in general, but if you're going to get acoustic foam, the way to go about it is Auralex. Just keep in mind that Auralex is extremely expensive, so there are other alternatives. What's more important than anything else is that you pick thick, dense, soft material. Is an Amazon Basics folding rack. It's about 25 bucks, sometimes around $20. And what you do is you see the racks on there. First of all, you can actually expand it out in about a second, and you can detach it in 1 second. So it's really, really, you don't get a lot of clutter. All you do is just put blankets and pillows that are on there in each of the slots. Go to your house, look at all the pillows and blankets that you have, and just go ahead and put it on there, and you're gonna get excellent sound. And you can get this, especially if you can't afford a PVC booth, which is about $150. You don't have the time to make acoustic panels, which can take about anywhere from 12 to 24 hours, and you don't really have money to buy acoustic panels, because those are like really expensive to buy them as well. And acoustic foam, as I mentioned, doesn't really do much. And if you want to get good acoustic foam, you got to get Oralex, and that can be really expensive. So there's not a lot of options. This works fantastic, and it's one of the best ways to get really good sound. All you do, again, just put an Amazon Basics rack on the table, put any microphone, doesn't have to be a Blue Yeti, any microphone, put large in each of those slots. Just those slots are where you put treatment in. So you could put dog beds, pillows, blankets, comforters, you name it. And if in doubt, add more. Now, it is possible to over-treat the area. So if that happens, listen to your recordings. If it's a little muffled, just take them out. And it just takes a little bit of listening to it. But believe me, once you get that formula down, it's so awesome because you just click a button, detach it, gone. It's so perfect because it leaves no clutter behind. Okay, so before I go on further with the next set of tips, I do want to make something very clear. So a lot of voiceover actors will say, don't use a Blue Yeti, don't use a Blue Yeti, use an XLR microphone. And they're right in many ways, but what I do want to make clear is two distinctions. Number one, there are people who don't have a Blue Yeti and are considering buying a Blue Yeti, right? And they're wondering if that's good enough. And then there are people who already have a Blue Yeti, right? And so there's this weird dichotomy because a lot of voice actors will say, don't use a Blue Yeti. It's not good for voiceover. And so, what they'll say is get an XLR microphone instead, which is true. I mean, look at this. So you can buy right now, you can buy an Audio-Technica 2035 and you can buy a Scarlett Solo for about the price of a Blue Yeti, and it's going to sound a hell of a lot better than a Blue Yeti. So the issue with a Blue Yeti is in terms of cost ratio for the amount of money you're paying for it, you can get better equipment. But this video is not about that. This video is for people who already have a Blue Yeti, and you may or may not be in a position to buy an XLR microphone just yet. And you want to know, how do I use this for voiceover? And am I doomed? No, you're not. You can actually make it work. Okay, so let's get right to it, okay? So, first thing you need to do, let's go over some tips here, okay? First thing you need to do, make sure that the Blue Yeti is pointing up, okay? This is obvious. Some of it is in the manual. I'm going to go over some obvious ones and some not so obvious ones. Second, make sure you choose the cardioid mode. Number 3, make sure you come up close to the microphone, okay? About 1 hand away, the Welker hand, right? You want to be at least around 6 to 8 inches away from the microphone. You don't want to copy these guys on YouTube where they're talking super far away from the microphone because it just doesn't sound as good. You need to make sure you're coming up really, really close to the microphone because when you're speaking about this far away and it just doesn't sound good, you need to make sure you come up really up close, okay? And that's a key difference between streaming, they're presenting something, they're showing something to somebody, versus voiceover, okay? And as I mentioned before, make sure you have good audio treatment. Another thing you should understand is you want to make sure that you're not recording anywhere near computer fans, any sort of people are all around you. Common mistake that a lot of people using the Blue Yeti do is that they record and they go, well, I can use Audacity noise reduction. No, don't do that because Audacity noise reduction actually isn't very good. It actually can make your sound like it's coming out of a tin can. And we're going to go over some alternatives. And but the best thing to do overall is kill it at the source. Figure out what's making all that noise to begin with, and instead of trying to remove it out with software, figure it out from hardware. Is it your computer fan? Then you need to go and record somewhere else. Print out the script, use an iPad, use a phone, get the wire out, move that mic somewhere where it's nowhere near that noise, right? So you got to make sure you're recording away from the source. Also, make sure you are speaking to the blue side of the microphone, the blue side. I actually make this mistake myself too, and it's a huge difference, but I always get stumped on it. Make sure you speak to the blue side of the microphone. Next thing you need to do, make sure that you put the gain at 0. No, no, no. You're going to see a lot of videos and they'll say, oh, 25%, 50%. No, you don't want to do that. Actually, what you want to do is look at your Blue Yeti and you see that gain knob. You're going to put that all the way to the left where it's like 0. And you're going to say to yourself, but oh no, like they can't hear me if I'm at 0. No, the Blue Yeti can hear, it can still, people can still hear you no matter what. In fact, you can actually still clip your audio with the Blue Yeti, even if your gain is at 0. And that is the problem with the Blue Yeti, is because most audio interfaces, when you're at 0, it should be where they can't hear you. But for some reason with the Blue Yeti, if you put the gain all the way at 0, people can still hear you. And here's the kicker, and something you don't really think about. Where you change the volume is not with your gain knob. You're gonna do it in most audio interfaces, you use your gain knob, not in the case of the Blue Yeti. In the case of the Blue Yeti, you're going to change it in your recording volume on Audacity, right? You want to change your volume in the recording volume, not with your gain knob. So glue your gain knob all the way to the left and never touch it. Never touch it, right? And make sure that basically you do your changes in your recording on in Audacity in your recording volume. So I'm going to go ahead and do a demonstration and show you step by step within Audacity on how to do different things. How do you know if you're clipping? What's a good volume? What's what do you do when you do like dynamic voice acting where you're coming from quiet to yelling? How do you do that? I'm going to go ahead and go over that with you right now. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and do a demonstration here of what to do with the Blue Yeti and to go from there. So, as I mentioned, and please follow me, put your gain knob to the far, 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 far left and glue it there. Never touch it. So let me ask you a question. How is it that even though my gain is all the way at the far left, I can still clip out my audio, right? Because the Blue Yeti is finicky, man. You gotta you change your volume in your recording volume. See how it gets really loud here, really, really loud, and really, really quiet here? This is where you change your volume. It's not like a proper audio interface where in a proper audio interface, what happens is you can actually do a recording where, you put your gain up. When it goes all the way down to 0, you can't hear yourself in a proper audio interface. However, on a Blue Yeti, even though you're all the way down, you can still hear yourself. In fact, you can actually clip. I'm clipping right now, right? That's no good. So what I want to show you is that basically you change your volume here in the recording volume. Okay, so now we've covered that. So what I'm going to do is go over like what I think is proper volumes and things like that and shortly after this demonstration, right? But what I'm going to do is this. What do you do when you need to do any sort of shouts and yells, right? So you see this range right here? This range I think is like pretty good range for regular speech. And for me on my computer, it's around 0.56. Now, what you want to do is, you see that red, that view show clipping? Go to view show clipping, click on it, because it's a really helpful tool because it lets you know if I'm clipping, right? So this means I'm clipping. Not good, right? And this is good. So for yells, this is how you do a yell. You drop this all the way down and you do a yell, and then you can amplify that later. So go back here. Yell test 1, 2, 3, right? And if you want it louder, you just select it and then you amplify it, but below clipping. Again, testing one. So again, doing a yell. Yell testing 1, 2, 3, right? So again, I'm clipping here. Not good. If you're clipping, that's no good, right? But this is what you do with your audio. This is how you control the audio with the Blue Yeti. Basically, you put your gain knob to the far left, and then for regular speech, you gotta fiddle with the recording volume. Figure out that hotspot. For me, when I do regular speech, I like staying around 0.5 to negative 0.5. That's a pretty good safe zone. For whispers, little bit kind of. This is a good, like for whispers, I like staying around here. This is a good tone for whispers right here. And then for yelling, what you do is you drop the recording volume down, you record it, and then you amplify that track. Or what you can also do too is do some test yells. You can do some test yells where you do some yells and you figure out what your limit is, right? So, but I think it's better just to drop the recording volume. Yelling test 1, 2, 3. Right? So that's where I'm at right now. I know I'm at a safe. Oh, that clipped out. But that's kind of what you do in terms of recording with the Blue Yeti for voiceover. You see how this is different? I think I might have clipped out. Okay, no. You see how this is different from, like, the tips that are offered on YouTube? They tell you, put it at fucking 50, I don't know, some guy was like, put it at 50%, and, like, this is a Blue Yeti on YouTube, okay? They fucking put their gain way the fuck over here, and they're talking, like, this loud. It's picking up the computer fan and everything, and this sounds like shit. This is not good. You don't want to put in a recording like this, and believe it or not, a lot of voice actors that use a Blue Yeti, they put in their recording like this. You don't want this. Like I said, let's recap, okay? First, drop your gain down to 0. Second, come close to the microphone. Third, change your volume in the recording volume. Third, speak to the blue side of the microphone, okay? And that's how you get good sound. At least acceptable with the Blue Yeti. All right, so now what I want to do is to go over this rubric right here. I'm just going to speak in Audacity terms and use Audacity diagrams because I'm just going to make the assumption that that you're probably using Audacity. So this on the far left is too quiet, and you never want to send in an audition like this, right? Because if you send it too quiet, you know what happens? The casting director is not going to listen to your audio. He's just going to be like, oh, nope. He or she will just be like, oh, I can't hear it. Skip. They're not really going to. They rarely will click on your audio and be like, oh, I should probably amplify this. Like, so never, ever, ever send in a recording like too quiet like that. Maybe in a final production where they will go back and the audio engineer will actually, increase it in post. But even then, I wouldn't recommend it because what happens is you're actually, and there's a video link I'm going to provide on the bottom. But what happens is when you actually make it that quiet, then the noise floor kind of goes up with you, which is not good, okay? What you want to do is actually record and figure out that sweet spot where for regular speech, you're kind of on the bottom left. You see that? That's good for regular speech, and I find it's around 0.5 to negative 0.5. And then for yells, as I mentioned, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can do some test yells and figure out where you're clipping, and then you drop your gain or your recording volume so that you're right before you're clipping, right? And then obviously bottom right, that's too loud and you don't want to record like that. So this is kind of what you do generally for recording volume. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is different recording software that you should use in tandem with Audacity. You can still use Audacity, and Audacity actually works for a lot of things that other programs actually aren't good at. Like I actually personally find Audacity really good for many little functions because it's such a really simple user interface to use. There's a reason why out of millions of people that use various different programs, they all pick up Audacity really easy. And it's because it's super easy to understand and use. It's intuitive. I just wish that there was a program out there that was just as easy to use as Audacity, but just as powerful as Reaper. Oh wait, there actually is one. It's called RX-7 Elements, and I'll go over that in a few seconds. But let me go over Reaper first. So Reaper actually is a program that a lot of voice actors will recommend, and it's a really powerful tool. As I mentioned before, Audacity's noise reduction is not good. I will admit that it's not very good. And in fact, a lot of features of Audacity, they kind of work, but not as well as other programs. And so Reaper is really good. So what I recommend is installing Reaper, and it's free forever. And I'm going to show you how to get it for free forever. And no, we're not going to do any pirating. We're going to do it legit because it actually is legitimately free. What you do is you're going to see that after your evaluation, so after a few months, you're going to get something along the lines, it'll say, Reaper is not free. Like on their purchase, it'll say, Reaper is not free. It is a paid software product, just like one you buy in a box from a store. Yada, 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 right? But look in the bottom right, and you're going to see a button. It says buy me. And what you do, this is important. You got to make sure that your mouse, like you're actually clicking on the window, as in like that window is active. And if you don't, then nothing's going to happen. So what you do is when you have it active, the buy me is going to count down like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then it'll say still evaluating. And if you click on that, you basically get Reaper for free. And Reaper is awesome. Except I'll be honest with you, I don't know how to use Reaper. But what I do want to say is that there actually is an excellent set of tutorials for Reaper and I'm going to put it in the description below by Boothjunkie. And a lot of people have found it helpful. A lot of other people have found it helpful. Like, I found it helpful to an extent, except for me, I personally don't like Reaper. I'm just being frank and honest with you. I'm not going to be like these people that are like, oh, Reaper is awesome and blah, blah. I'm going to say it as it is. For me, it doesn't make sense. I consider myself very, very technically savvy. Like, I'm in engineering. I've been doing this for many years, and Reaper does not make sense to me. Like, there's people on here, like, they'll be like, oh, it makes so much sense. No, it doesn't. It's not intuitive. Audacity is intuitive. Reaper is not. However, and I'm going to talk about this in the next step, there is something that is just as easy to use as Audacity and powerful, if not more powerful than Reaper. And I strongly recommend it. It's called RX-7 Elements. And if you get RX-7 Advanced, it is fucking badass. However, RX-7 Advanced is like $1,200, so not a lot of people can afford it. But back on topic, get RX-7 Elements because it's only $29 and it's just as easy to use as Audacity, and it's way powerful, just as powerful in many ways as Reaper. So let's go over what RX-7 Elements does and go from there. Sorry about that. I didn't really have much time to go over RX-7 Elements because I'm realizing the video is reaching around 21 minutes, and it would be a really, really long video if I kind of went over everything. So I just wanted to basically create a video to help out anybody who is looking to get better sound out of the Blue Yeti, as well as to go over some alternatives that will help in tandem with Audacity. And I did mention that RX-7 Elements is $29. Actually, it's $129, but it's currently on sale for $29, and I strongly recommend it if you're looking for something as simple as Audacity and just as powerful, if not more powerful than Reaper. Because in my opinion, RX-7 is actually it's more powerful than Adobe Audition, and it's more powerful than Reaper, depending on the version of RX-7 you get. But RX-7 Elements is really, really great. I strongly recommend it. You can find it for 29 bucks. Sorry, I know this ended up being a shilling video for RX-7 Elements, but it is an amazing tool to use. So I hope you guys found this helpful. I'm sorry for the long video. It's just one of those things that there's so much going on with the Blue Yeti that I can't explain it in like 2 minutes. You have to do many, many things for it to sound good. So hopefully you guys found this helpful, and we'll go from there. Okay, bye.